Welcome back. This is the last video of my playoff preview series that I've been doing this week. And today we're going to be talking about the 4th seed Prince George Cougars and the 5th seed Portland Winterhawks. And yeah, as the other videos have gone, I'm going to first talk about each team individually and say who their stars are, who to look out for, and what their goalie situation is like, along with how their season went. Then after that, I'm going to see how both teams matched up against each other this season. Then finally, I'm going to give my final prediction for this final video of this series to see or to tell you guys how I think this series is going to go. So without further ado, let's get into Prince George's season. Alright, so Prince George had a very, I wouldn't say disappointing season, but it was definitely a step down from the season that they had last year. Last year they clinched the BC division. This year they did not. And last year they definitely had more firepower than they did this year. Regardless, they were able to get 41 wins and had only 21 regulation losses. So they definitely finished things in regulation or lose things in regulation. Their stars are pretty good. Their top scorer in Riley Height had a total of 90 points in 60 games played, so well over a point per game player. The guy behind him in Tarek Parasak, that name might sound familiar because he just got drafted in the first round to Washington this past draft. He had 82 points in 59 games, so didn't play or was missing from the lineup for a few games. Then there's Vallis, who a month ago or less just signed a entry-level contract with the Maple Leafs, who he went undrafted, so that's pretty good for him. He had 80 points over 66 games, so definitely was pretty healthy throughout the season. And then you have Zemer. I think I'm pronouncing that one correctly. Who had 71 points in 61 games. And the kind of common thing throughout all these players is that a lot of their points are coming from assists. Except for Zemer, who has more goals than he does assists, the top 3 have more assists than they do goals. So yeah, and then the big thing for Prince George is their goaltending this year and last year, and Joshua Ravensbergen, who he is projected to go in the late first round this year. He's a late birthday, so yeah, he's been a pretty good goaltender in 51 games played, so that's a lot of starts for a goaltender. There was a stretch of games where he started almost all of February, which for a goaltender is a lot. He has a goals against average of 3, just 3 flat, which if you've been keeping up with how I've been talking about goalies throughout this series, it's not the greatest, considering the fact that the other goalie, or the other goalies more so in these series or in this league, have much better stats. He has a save percentage though of 901 or 901, so which is better than the Portland goalie, who I'm going to get into soon. And he had 33 wins, so he's definitely winning a whole lot more than he's losing, which is pretty good. And Prince George as a whole had some good special teams, especially on their PK or penalty kill. They were 6th in the league at 79.1, which pretty good. And however, if we look at their their power play, they are 16th in the league with a 22.3, which is probably going to be a problem in this series if they can't score on the power play. But that kind of gets canceled out by the fact that Portland has the 17th best PK in the league, so that may become a factor. Anyway, more on Prince George. They had 251 goals for and 222 goals against, so a little bit tighter compared to other teams. And yeah, so that's Prince George for you. I'm gonna jump over to Portland. Alright, so Portland had a similar season to Prince George in the fact that they kind of were around that middle area of the pack a little bit. They had 36 wins and 28 regulation losses, which is a little bit more, is a lot in the wins column, at least, is definitely less than Prince George. They had 261 goals for and 269 goals against. So they're definitely being outscored by their opponents, which not great for playoffs. They had their special teams, which are like their power play and penalty kill, are definitely weaker than a lot of teams. They have the 11th best power play, and as I mentioned earlier, they have the 17th best penalty kill. So that is not great. So they are not, special teams is going to be an issue. And yeah, so if we get into their stars though, they definitely have some people who put up some points. They have their second, like the name that you're probably gonna recognize at least is Tyson Jugnaut, who had 89 points in 65 games. He's their second, the second lead scorer on the team. I think that sounds correct. Their top scorer, though, is Chizowski. I think I'm pronouncing that right. A lot of the top players on Portland have some interesting names, so if I'm pronouncing them wrong, let me know and I will change that for the future. So Chizowski had 105 points in 66 games. So a guy that they're really going to be leaning on in this playoff series and run if they do go on one. Then they have Buttazzoni, who had 77 points in 63 games. And then they had Zakreski, who had 70 points in 66 games. So all their top players are like point per game players or point per game producers. So they're definitely going to be a threat. However, may not be as strong as Prince George in the sense of like how their points are spread out throughout everyone. Their goalie situation, though, it kind of looked like that they had like a tandem, but the goalie I went with to highlight is the goalie that had the most games played in Steptech. He had 47 games played with a 3.72 goals against average, so not great, really. So the Prince George may take advantage of that. He had an 891, which also not great, with 23 wins. So just barely losing more than he's winning. That's like the main weak spot in Portland, for me at least, is that their goaltending isn't great. So that may result in the series going one way or the other. So yeah, that's Portland for you. Now I'm gonna get into the season series, how that went. Then I'm gonna give you my final prediction. Alright, so looking at their season series, it's a little bit it's lopsided in the wins, but it's not as lopsided in the goals. So Portland won 4 out of the 4 meetings that were had this season. But one thing to keep in mind is that those wins were at the beginning of the season, before like both teams really were getting like situated. And so Portland had 15 goals in total throughout the 4 games, and Prince George had 10. So a 5-goal difference, not as much as we've seen in past like in the past previews I've done for the other series, but a little bit on the concerning side for Prince George, at least, since they need to find a way to get scoring against Portland. With that in mind, I believe that Prince George is going to take this in 7 games. I think it's going to go all the way. I think it's going to be back and forth. Just how kind of evenly matched these teams are. Not like, there's definitely some aspects where it's a little bit like lopsided, but then it kind of makes up in other aspects. Like Portland has really good players, but Prince George has a pretty good goalie, and kind of vice versa with Prince George not having as strong players, but Portland having a strong goalie, or having a weaker goalie. So yeah, that's my prediction, and that concludes this video series that I've done. Playoffs, I am pretty sure all series start around 6 o'clock tonight. So as I mentioned in my first video, you can watch those for free on Victory Plus. This is not an ad. I just think it's very cool that they're giving people the opportunity to watch these games without having to bring out the credit card. So yeah, puck drop for first few games start tonight at 6 o'clock for some and 7 o'clock for others. So yeah, if you like this video, please like it and comment on it and subscribe so I know to continue making videos kind of like this. And yeah, so thanks for watching.